Like many people who later became successful writers, Charles Dickens grew up in a nice house and received a good education. However, this was to change when he was only 12 years old. In 1824, his father found that he owed people a lot of money and he was sent to prison with Charles's mother. Charles had to stop going to school, live alone and get a job to make ends meet. He worked in a factory, putting labels onto bottles. He was paid very little and lived hand to mouth. He loathed every minute of it. Fortunately for Charles, his father did not stay in prison for long. Although Charles's mother wanted him to continue working at the factory, his father disagreed, and Charles went back to school. However, it was his experience at working with other poor people in a factory that made Dickens the empathized writer he became, aware of the difficult lives many people were living. When he left school, Dickens started off working in the law, but he always loved writing, and soon became a journalist. He started writing stories in magazines, and his stories were very popular. When he was older, Dickens used to live in a part of London where there was a workhouse in the same street. He was aware of the malnourished children who had to live and work in these terrible places. And so he wrote Oliver Twist, about a boy who spent time in a workhouse before living in places in London that were so poor that children had to beg or go hungry. Like his earlier stories, Oliver Twist was published in a magazine, which his readers could read part of every month. His readers were shocked when they learnt that this was not only a story, but based on real events and people in the capital city. Many people did not realize that there were skinny children looking for work and food in London at that time. Dickens certainly compassionate with the poor, but he also believed that being poor often led to a life of crime. We can see this in the character Fagin in Oliver Twist, who makes poor children work for him as thieves. For Dickens, the best escape from poverty was through education. Dickens did not forget that he had to stop going to school when his father was sent to prison, and he later helped to support the so-called ragged schools, where children of the poorest families in the country could feel at home and get a good education. Dickens was able to help schools like this because in later life, he was a very successful writer. As well as Oliver Twist, 1839, Dickens wrote many other famous novels including Nicholas Nickleby, 1839, David Copperfield, 1850, and Great Expectations, 1861. Poor people often feature in Dickens' novels which continue to entertain us today. They are great stories, and are often very funny, making fun of people who think they are important because of their jobs or money. Many of his books have been made into films. Perhaps the most important aspect of his novels, however, is that he shone a light on lives of poverty that were often hidden or ignored at that time.